where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. God has hidden unlimited treasures in His Word. Every time we open it, we can discover a new treasure, or admire an old one. What will we find today? Let's dig in. Here's Carla Early with Treasure Hunt in the Word.
When I first started trying to pray on a regular basis, I read about some godly historical characters who would spend time in prayer for hours every day. I got to thinking, though, if they could do that for hours, why couldn't I concentrate on a prayer for 15 minutes? I'd sit down with all the best intentions and end up with my thoughts on what I was planning to make for dinner, or what I was going to get at the grocery store, or how I should text someone before I forgot, or a plethora of other mundane things. Not usually anything spiritual, anyway. A friend of mine brought up a verse that really helped me, part of 2 Corinthians 10:5. It says, "Bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ." Some days my thoughts were just everywhere. It was like herding cats in a bouncy house. I needed them focused and calm before I could enter God's throne room. I decided to turn my wandering thoughts into prayers. I keep a sticky note next to my God chair where I go to read in the morning and throughout the day to meet God. If my mind begins to wander, or there's something I need to add to my grocery list, I write it down, and then I thank God for reminding me. If I think of a friend I need to text, I write down her name and then pray for her and thank God for bringing her to my mind. In this way, I keep bringing my thoughts back to God. Those things that pop into my mind are no more a nuisance that I get distracted about, but are now reasons to pray. The bouncy house is deflated and the cats are purring, and I can focus on God. 2 Corinthians 10:5 is also handy when I'm facing fear. I don't know about you, but I can get totally obsessed with the what-ifs of life. My creative thought processes can turn a perfectly neutral situation into something really scary. So you can imagine what my mind can come up with in a truly life-threatening situation like the one that COVID-19 pandemic has turned out to be. In early January, when I first heard reports coming out of China about this new virus, my mind had half the world's population dead and me grubbing in the backyard for dandelion greens to feed my family before the broadcast was even over. So, how can we take thoughts captive so fear won't paralyze us in these kinds of situations? We know God doesn't want us to fear. As Paul told Timothy, God has not given us a spirit of timidity, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So what's the way out of the fear spiral? First, we have to realize we're in one. Only then can we do something about it and start taking those thoughts captive. A set of verses that has really calmed me and helped me be bold in the face of fear has been Philippians 4:4-9. It starts out, "Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice." Now lest we shrug off this verse and think, whoever wrote that doesn't know my situation. Remember, this was Paul writing when he was under house arrest in Rome, chained to a Roman soldier, not knowing when his trial may be, or if they'd cut off his head or let him go free. This is the guy who's telling us to rejoice always. He continues, "Let your gentleness be known to all men. The Lord is near." I don't have to go off the deep end every time something happens. The Lord is with me. I know He's near me. I'm not alone no matter what I face. In fact, the way a Christian handles a crisis can be a witness to others. If I'm calm and unafraid, it shows that God is near, and I trust Him completely. Paul continues, "Be anxious for nothing." We know that verse. Don't be worried or afraid. This is a command. Worry and fear are not Christ-like qualities. So what can we do instead? Paul says, "But in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God." Take everything to God in prayer, but don't just dump it at His feet. Thank Him. Some situations are so awful that it's well nigh impossible to think of things to be thankful for, unless you're Pollyanna. But if nothing else, you can be thankful that you have a loving God that really cares about you and about your needs, whether they're big or small. He's always ready to hear your prayer, and He has the power to take care of your trials so that they turn into testimonies. What happens when we take our fears to Him? Well, the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. That peace that only God can give will flood our hearts. We'll feel the burden being lifted from our shoulders. And unless we decide to pick it up again, He's got it. He'll take care of it. Not only that, but He'll guard our hearts and minds. Well, with those fears gone, it leaves an empty space. That's where my favorite verse in this passage comes in. It says, "Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, meditate on these things." Fix your mind on godly things. And those aren't the what-ifs of life. They're what's true. God isn't surprised by this situation. It's all in His plan. What's true is that you are a child of God, and His love for you is so all-encompassing that He knows the deep-down nitty-gritty you, and He loves you anyway. What's true is that God's all-powerful, way more than we can imagine. So when you take your thoughts captive, think on these things. And as you get to know the Lord more and more, you can add truths to that list. In fact, in our treasure hunt in the Word, we'll discover many of God's characteristics and attributes. When we meditate on them, we will find strength for our road ahead. What are your favorite characteristics of God that you've found true in your life? What are some other biblical truths that you've learned and meditate on when your mind goes into fear mode? I'd love to hear about them. You can contact me at treasurehuntintheword@gmail.com. I'm Carla Early. Thanks for listening. And remember, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.